The idea that there is some incredibly explosive picture, file, report, document sitting there, which the Biden administration happily sat on for 4 years about Donald Trump, is so utterly, utterly ludicrous.
Well, now, it's been a week that has once again shown that President Trump has at least a complicated relationship with Europe. In a Politico interview, the president railed against European mass migration, labelling the continent as decaying.
I think they're weak, but I also think that they want to be so politically correct. I think they don't know what to do. Europe doesn't know what to do. They don't know what to do on trade either. I mean, I look at a lot of the trade, situation that's going on over there. It's a little bit dangerous, but Europe, they want to be politically correct, and it makes them weak. That's what makes them weak.
And in the last few hours, US Democrats have also released 19 more photographs from Jeffrey Epstein's estate, featuring President Trump, Steve Bannon, Bill Clinton and Richard Branson. The photographs don't imply any wrongdoing by those featured. House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries took questions earlier.
We as Democrats, led by Robert Garcia, the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee, are going to continue to make sure that we're holding this administration accountable. These people who are part of the Trump administration, including Donald Trump and J.D. Vance himself, all said for years that they wanted to release the Epstein files. Then they come into office and do the exact opposite: obstruct and obfuscate, hide stuff from the American people. All we want is full transparency, so that the American people can get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's what the Epstein survivors deserve and have demanded. And we're going to make sure that the Department of Justice complies.
That's House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries. Well, let's turn now to Gerry Baker, editor-at-large of the Wall Street Journal. Good afternoon, Gerry.
Hello.
We'll come to Europe in just a second, but just first, your reaction to another release of the photographs, not the actual files themselves, but this issue just won't go away for Donald Trump, will it?
Well, Kathy, there's absolutely nothing in. I mean, this is, and I think the risk for particularly the Democrats as they keep doing this stuff is they keep putting out stuff which, I mean, it's really nothing. It's a picture. There's several pictures. One of them is with Donald Trump, and a bunch of women, as far as one can make out, because the faces are blacked out. And then there's pictures of Bill Clinton. There's pictures of Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary. I mean, none of these is remotely incriminating of Trump, of Clinton, of Bill Gates, of Richard Branson. They're just kind of photographs that people took with Jeffrey Epstein. So I think I think the danger here, frankly, is that people are just inured to this now. I don't think there's a huge scandal waiting to explode. The Biden administration had all of the Epstein files for 4 years. The Justice Department had all of the information that supposedly now resides there under Donald Trump. If the Biden administration, pursued Donald Trump left, right, and center over election interfering, trying to overturn the election, over, his behavior, over keeping files that he shouldn't have kept up. That the idea that there is some incredibly explosive picture, file, report, document sitting there, which the Biden administration happily sat on for 4 years about Donald Trump, is so utterly, utterly ludicrous. So I think this story is rapidly losing altitude. It's losing its impact. And frankly, things like this, where they just release randomly with no explanation, no comment, no context, just a bunch of, frankly, completely, let's be honest, completely kind of, I wouldn't use the word innocent, because I would never use that term around Jeffrey Epstein, but completely kind of, nothing photographs. I don't think it moves the needle at all.
Well, let's talk about Europe and, not only the national security strategy, but now these comments from Donald Trump railing against Europe and the continent's decaying. How should Europe respond, do you think?
Well, I think, I'm a little surprised at the degree of surprise that we've seen in the last week or so at both the release of the national security strategy and the comments that Trump. I mean, it's pretty well established by now. We know what Donald Trump thinks about institutional Europe, shall we call it that? He thinks they're feckless. He thinks they're woke. He thinks they're way too left-wing and progressive. He thinks they're in favor of open borders. He thinks they're in favor of ridiculous policies on climate and net zero and all this kind of stuff. And that still broadly characterizes the institutional political leadership of Europe. You wouldn't be surprised that Trump doesn't like any of that stuff. He's never liked it, nor does J.D. Vance, the vice president. don't like also some of the things that are going on in Europe with regard to things like free speech, particularly in Britain, where there seem to be such, that there do seem to be increasingly draconian actions taken against people who express views that sort of challenge the orthodoxies. So it's not really a surprise that Trump thinks that. Look, Trump wants, I believe, I don't know, but he wants Europe to be what he's trying to make America be, which is less woke, less progressive, less obsessed with abandoning net zero policies, being much more defensive and supportive and proud of its history and its civilization than it has been. And I think that's the point. The point is, I don't think Trump is attacking Europeans per se. I mean, he's a European stock himself, and the whole kind of, if you listen to some of the MAGA crowd talk, what they're trying to do is to reassert the virtues of what we call Western civilization, which of course basically were founded in Europe. So it's attacking the institutions of the European Union, the political leaderships of the European Union for the most part,
Right.
and really calling upon them to change. Sorry.
Gerry Baker, thank you very much for joining us. Editor-at-large of the Wall Street Journal. He's written a fascinating column in today's paper, so do have a read of that when you can.